Korea. Seoul National University of Science and Technology. The Fibonacci sequence and the Da Vinci Code. Subject: No. An academic advisor: No. The subject of study: Majoring in architecture. Student number: 11,144,810. Name: Chong Ha Bak. Seoul National University of Science and Technology. Korea. East Sea, Dokdo, Korea. This is the English version. The Da Vinci Code 666 is Jesus Christ, the golden ratio of the human figures. My name is Chong Ha Bak. I am a student majoring in the science of construction, in a architectural institution, Seoul National University of Science and Technology, Seoul, Korea. Before explaining the Da Vinci Code, this is a video, which is made, in order to better understand the Da Vinci Code 666, and the basic principle of the Bible. For reference, I have published How to Transfer Creative Thinking for my friends who may lack creativity, and How to Compound the Principle of 5 Sentences for my friends who don't know English well, on the video. I sincerely hope that you will help to achieve my friends' dreams. To friends all around the world, Mount Bakdu of Korea. Mount Bakdu is the very highest mountain in Korea. And Mount Bakdu is the roots of our people. It is the spirit of our peaceful people. Dokdo of Korea. Dokdo is the inherent territory of Korea, and is the pride of our nation, which loves peace. In addition, Dokdo of Korea has a sad and painful history, despite being a beautiful island in the East Sea, and a paradise for the birds. At the same time, Dokdo of Korea also has a deep-rooted history, with respect to the beginning of World War II, Japan's war of aggression, which caused people from all over the world great suffering, and pain, and extensive bloodshed. And so, friends from all over the world, who are anxious for justice and peace, want to protect Dokdo, which has a sad and painful past in our nation's history. From your friend, who wants to become a beautiful bird. I was 23 years old, and was full of self-confidence, that I was able to do anything. The things I need now are self-confidence, and competitive mind, which I once threw away. All that falls have not wings, however, to be a kite and to hang up my wings, I forcefully jump off the edge of a cliff, where I was standing. Is it impossible? It is merely one of your opinions. Dead Poets Society, clay design motif, initiative time, 1 hour and 30 minutes. Boundlessness, Tiguk, the mother's womb, an embryo, an egg, a kite, I. The chopstick design motif, initiative time, 1 hours. The cosmos, the black hole, a butterfly, a typhoon, a clock, a kite, I. Dead Poets Society. These videos should search for the world's first revelation of the Da Vinci Code Chapter 2 in YouTube. Seoul National University of Science and Technology. The Fibonacci sequence and the Da Vinci Code. Subject: No. An academic advisor: No. The subject of study: Majoring in architecture. Student number: 11,144,810. Name: Chong Ha Bak. Seoul National University of Science and Technology. The world's first deciphering of the Da Vinci Code. Deciphering time: it took about 20 minutes. The French inventor recently unearthed that Da Vinci had hidden a lion, a snake, and a troglodyte in the Mona Lisa painting. A partial excerpt from the article content on the Mona Lisa. The letters in the right eye of the Mona Lisa look like LV, and in the left eye of the Mona Lisa look like CE or BS. The part of the arched bridge in the background of the Mona Lisa also found the symbols that look like the number 72 or the letter 2. A partial excerpt from the content of the Book of the Apocalypse of St. John chapter 13. It is omitted from. Here is wisdom. He who has understanding, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. The following is, after I put the alphabet, from A to Z, the formula, which arranges the numbers, from 1 to 26 in order. If I divide the numbers by 26, and the letters in half, we reach the letter M, which represents the number 13. Then, the alphabet from A to M, and from N to Z represent, respectively, the numbers from 1 to 13, and 1-13. Therefore, as the left and right numbers are in the same location, it may transform as follows. In other words, we can know that the alphabet from A to M represent the numbers from 1 to 13, and the alphabet from N to Z represent the numbers from 1 to 13. The alphabet S is the number 19, but it also represents the number 6, so the number 12 is letter L. Thus, we can conclude this may be transformed into 6 times 2, or 6 and 6. Therefore, if we put the number, which was transformed, we can come to the number 666, the riddle of the Book of the Apocalypse of St. John chapter 13, the source figure of the Last Supper. The secret figure of the Last Supper, a man. A woman. Michael the Archangel. Genitals of men and women. A man, a woman, Michael the Archangel, genitals, a spear, the effect of the mirror 1. The effect of the mirror 2. The meaning and conclusion of the Mona Lisa, which is the Da Vinci Code. 1. Leonardo da Vinci has hidden, in the picture, the number 666, which is the riddle of the Book of the Apocalypse of St. John chapter 13. 2. Leonardo da Vinci knew exactly the riddle of the Book of the Apocalypse of St. John chapter 17. 3. Leonardo da Vinci knew exactly the essence of the riddle, and the meaning, which sentences were taking. 4. Leonardo da Vinci identified the number 666 with the syllogism, and I can identify them with the syllogism and 1. These videos should search for the world's first revelation of the Da Vinci Code chapter 2 in YouTube. Now, should I check if the course of my explanation, which I interpret is to be correct? Surprisingly, it is the number 666. So, how can I solve the Da Vinci Code? If you solve the Da Vinci Code, you have to interpret the Book of the Apocalypse of St. John, otherwise, you cannot solve it and understand it without the following mathematical concept. 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Question. Do you know what these numbers mean? So, what comes next after the number 13? Think for the 10 minutes. Was it difficult for you? This is from the Fibonacci sequence, a special sequence. So, I will explain the principle of the Fibonacci sequence. There are a pair of newborn rabbits, a male and a female. About a month after these rabbits are born, they become adult rabbits. The following month, they give birth to a pair of rabbits, on a monthly basis, one male and one female. A pair of newborn rabbits, a male and a female, which 2 months after they is born, give birth to a pair of rabbits, a male and a female. When this process continues, after 12 months, it is the mathematical concept that male and female rabbits are reached 144 couples. The conceptual diagram of the Fibonacci sequence. As a result, while a pair of rabbits is reproducing, the superscript numbers are the increasing numbers. The Fibonacci sequence, and the golden section, that is hidden inside the shell of the Nautilus. The sketch of the golden section, which uses the Fibonacci sequence of Da Vinci. I will determine the number that belongs inside the parentheses. The number which comes next to the number 13 is the number 21. So, how is it the number 21? The Fibonacci sequence is the principle that the third number is calculated when you add the first number to the second number. Therefore, as they become the number 13, when you add the previous two numbers 5 and 8, we can calculate that the number which comes next after the number 13 is the number 21, when we add the number 8 to 13. As a result, it is the mathematical principle of the Fibonacci sequence that we are able to predict the third number when we know the first and second number. So, how can Da Vinci solve the number 666 in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John? Da Vinci also applied the Fibonacci sequence to the Bible. This is because Da Vinci was able to know that the numbers had something to do with 1 throughout the Bible. Similarly, the Old Testament applied the Fibonacci sequence as the first number, and the New Testament as the second number. Therefore, he was able to predict the number of the riddle of the book of the Apocalypse of St. John, that was the third number. As a result, when you add the number of the Old Testament and the New Testament that was already given, they become the number of the book of the Apocalypse of St. John. In other words, when the histories of the Old Testament and the New Testament were rolled into one, they also mean that they consist of the book of the Apocalypse of St. John conclusively. All the hints of the riddle in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John had been hidden by Moses, Jesus, and the number, which all had something to do with one another, in the sentence. However, these hints cannot be seen if you don't have the ability to analyze the Bible in its entirety. Unlike Vatican officials, Da Vinci, who was able to analyze the entire Bible, and knew that all the numbers that were specified in the Old Testament and the New Testament were the elusive number, which is found in the interpretation of the book of the Apocalypse of St. John. Therefore, Da Vinci understood this was a natural science, which the Bible wasn't able to be proved by a fantasy novel, but by the Fibonacci sequence. As a result, using math, he proved that the history of God actually existed. So, why did Da Vinci have to hide that the number 666 was Jesus Christ? Galileo Galilei had to swear a pledge of abandoning the heliocentric theory because of the pressure of the Vatican. What if Da Vinci told them that the number 666 was Jesus Christ, who was the Son of Man? This was a much larger and shocking incident than the challenging of the heliocentric theory for the authority of the Vatican. Of course, Da Vinci would have died a miserable death, because it would have been heretical behavior to them. So someday, waiting for the very day that the truth is revealed, he hid the answer in the paintings. The Mona Lisa and the Last Supper are the paintings which are interpreted in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John. Through these paintings, I was able to understand the reason why Da Vinci is the greatest genius in human history. Though it would have been truly unfortunate if Da Vinci had been Pope, the foolish apocalypse story would not have happened. Now, using the mathematical concept of the Fibonacci sequence, I will prove only the substance of the number 666 in this video. The essence of the book of the Apocalypse of St. John is the birth of Jesus, the Son of Man. And the conclusive hints of this riddle are the number of the beast, the people and the names. Since all problems have arisen from Jesus, man and beast, therefore, the number of the beast is that of a rabbit and the number of people is that of Jesus, and the number of the name is that of the name of Jesus. That is why the solution of this riddle has to know Jesus, and if we know Jesus in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, we are able to naturally know Jesus, who is the Son of Man, in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John. If you understood this mathematical principle, which I explained so far, you can understand the number 666 in the riddle of the book of the Apocalypse of St. John, and the Da Vinci Code more easily. When he returned, after his death, the basic number 666 is the number 3, which Jesus of the New Testament is taking. As a day is 24 hours, it is the principle which becomes the number 6, when we add the number 2 and 4. So, the number 666 means the 3 days, and it is able to transform into the number 111, which transforms the number 6 into the number 1. As a result, the number 111 means 3 people, this crucial and elusive number, which can solve the riddle of the book of the Apocalypse of St. John. Therefore, to solve them, you have to understand all the numerical connections of the entire Bible. Unfortunately, people who have understood this numerical connection have been only Da Vinci in history. Now, let's take a look at Jesus first. Jesus in the Old Testament is Joseph, and the number of his name is the number 13, and he is Jesus' shadow. Jesus in the New Testament is Jesus, the Son of God, and the number of his name is the number 9, and he is a spiritual being. Therefore, the combined number is the number 22. As a result, as 2 men are the number 22, it is able to change into the number 222. Jesus, the Son of Man in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John, has the number 666. If these 3 men are combined into 1 man, we have to use a new concept. Basically, man consists of a body, a spirit, and a shadow. 1. A spirit and shadow of Jesus are the number 222, and it means the number 1. 2. A body of the Son of Man is the number 444, and it means the number 2. Jesus, the Son of Man, who the superscript number 1 and 2 are combined is the number 666, and it means the number 3. As a result, Jesus, who is the perfect Son of Man, becomes the number 666, and the number 222, which combined with Joseph and Jesus, become a spirit and shadow. And we can know that they become 1:2 equal 2:3, the proportional expression of the human body, of the perfect man, who Da Vinci sketched. In addition, we know that it is the Son of Man, who is the golden ratio of the Fibonacci sequence. The golden ratio of the human body, of Da Vinci. Also, let's take a look at the beast second, both of the 2 candlestick, of the 2 witnesses, that were specified in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John chapter 11, verse 4, and the beast of taking 2 horns, that was specified in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John chapter 13, verse 11, mean the number 222. And if you change them to the rabbit, these which both mean the same thing, would help you understand more clearly. Rabbit ears, which look like two horns, are Joseph in the Old Testament, and Jesus in the New Testament, and the body of the rabbit mean the Son of Man, in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John. Like this, 3 rabbits have grown into one, and they become a complete rabbit. As a result, the path, which solves man and beast, is similar. When 3 men have grown into one, they completely possess the conditions of the rabbit, man and beast. Since the number 666 is the Son of Man in the book of the Apocalypse of St. John, in which 3 men have grown into one, he doesn't die like the Son of God, who has the 3 years and the 36 years, which is the resurrection number at the same time. Since 1 year is also 12 months and the 36 years are the period which was trained by God. As a result, it becomes the number 3, when we add the number 1 to 2, and it becomes the number 9, which is the same number for Jesus, when we add the number 3 to 6. And Joseph and Jesus, who is the Son of God, and Jesus who is the Son of Man, are reincarnated as the complete one Jesus, who takes the resurrection number 3. As a result, like the rabbit which reproduces geometrically, and as God on the 6th day, in Genesis makes man and beast, like the married man and woman, who take a unique number 6 have their baby. The purpose of God don't lead to death, but make Jesus, who is the son of an ordinary person, cultivate a righteous person geometrically. As a result, the book of the Apocalypse of St. John is not to determine death, but to inform of a new beginning similar to Genesis, and it is to inform the people of the world about the existence of God. Now, if you understand the basic concepts, to understand the Gospel of John, the book of the Apocalypse of St. John, and the Da Vinci Code, which I included in the video, it will not be difficult to understand. Even so, if people continue to have difficulty in understanding, please think simply that all the numbers have been associated with Jesus. Details show all the videos that have already been published. My videos, which are composed of long sentences, from the 1st to the 7th letter, will help you to accomplish your dream, even a little. The English version, that includes the contents of the Gospel of John, the book of the Apocalypse of St. John, the Mona Lisa, and the Last Supper, will publish as soon as possible. If you look at the Korean version, Koreans who live around you or the friends who study the Korean language can see the entire contents of videos now. These videos should search for the world's first revelation of the Da Vinci Code Chapter 1 to 3 on YouTube. Also, the friends who want to act with God want to help my videos spread around the world. Now, I will take a look at the basic principles of the Bible for Christians. To understand the Bible exactly, first of all, you should know the structure which the Bible was composed of. The Bible is equal to the coin of taking the 2 sides. So, if you don't take in the contents of the Bible as a whole, and see only a part of it, and judge it, and interpret it separately, you cannot achieve an absolutely correct interpretation. Therefore, it is necessary to understand the flow of the entire Bible first. But unfortunately, the leaders of the Christian religion did not have the insight that was necessary to grasp the whole Bible until now. That is why they were not able to interpret the Bible logically and rationally. But it would really be a shame to have looked at how the leaders of the Christian religion taught Christians that we, humans, as a part of God as history, were many parts that cannot be accepted in the Bible rationally. As they have taught the Bible without a concept like this, people all over the world treat it as if it were a fantasy novel, and they are to scold Christians. Therefore, I will compare it to the coin to teach you how to interpret the Bible correctly. The Bible shows the head of a coin, such as the words, as a trap of the wisdom of God first. However, the intentions of God are hiding on the tail of the coin. To see the tail of the coin, you must certainly have the insights that can see through the entire Bible. So, while you are interpreting the Bible, you must certainly think about the pearl necklace. to make a pearl necklace with a grain of the pearl, which is the history and words of God. You can make a beautiful pearl necklace, the finished product, which must connect the last with the first pearl, after threading through the first pearl. As a result, the first pearl is the last pearl. However, if you don't connect the first and the last, and interpret the Bible as it appears, you will be caught in a trap of the wisdom of God. If the leaders of the Christian religion knew only the simple principle that can distinguish between good and evil, you can avoid being caught in the wisdom trap. Now, to make Christians realize the truth, I am going to give you a riddle. Please solve without thinking too hard. If anyone who can interpret the riddle of the following is, then they can distinguish between good and evil, and can fully understand all truth that exists on earth. And all the Christians, including the Catholics, can understand why only an evildoer, who is not a righteous man, must be. Don't be very fond of the Last Judgment. Unfortunately, there is no Christians who survive, because you are committing an unseen evil. It is the degree of difficulty to distinguish between good and evil. After you are shocked, please make an effort to be able to live with people from all over the world. As I think very fearful God, I will teach Christians how to distinguish between good and evil with love. The riddle, which is the key of heaven, is as follows. The Garden of Eden in the Bible contains a trigonal pyramid, which is connected in a globe of having a double-edged sword. To enter here, you must have the small 5 keys of truth, and 1 big key of truth. Can you guess what this shape and keys mean? Is it difficult? I will give the Christians some hints. The theme of the Bible is in the preface, and Genesis chapter from 1 to 5, that can see the whole Bible as a condensed version. If you are able to understand and analyze exactly this condensed version, you are able to solve the riddle simply, which I am presenting. When you found the key, and assembled it to the shape, under any circumstances, you always should be careful to not break the shape. And so, they take on a duality. Also, you should never forget that element, which breaks the sided elements of the shape, as the elements of the line. Finally, what Christians need is not a fragmentary thought, but a holoscopic, rational and illogical thought. And you should never forget that the most important thing is the true life. The person who is taking wisdom is not the person who follows heaven, but the person who makes heaven follow him. You should not forget that this is also the biggest difference between the person who is taking wisdom and who is not taking wisdom. Lastly, after having been gone, I think Da Vinci and Fibonacci, who were recognized for their genius. To survive in any organization, you have to become a sharp-eyed man. This is an insight. Korea. Seoul National University of Science and Technology.